Welcome to the thrilling world of Security Squawk, where we explore cybersecurity. Guiding you through online threats, we'll aid you in understanding safety protocols and trends. Meet our gurus, Bryan from Exact IT, Reginald from Arc Solvers, and Randy from Tech Rescue. Together, we'll delve into current events and hot cybersecurity topics, helping you comprehend their impact. Stay informed, stay secure. Security Squawk, the business of cybersecurity. Buckle up, let's dive in.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Security Squawk podcast, a show where we cut through the noise and talk real cybersecurity news that matters to people like you, business owners, MSPs, and other IT pros. I'm Bryan, joined as always by Randy and Andre. What's up, gentlemen? How are you?
Hey, Happy New Year. I guess we can still say that, right? It's only been 9 days.
That's right, and Happy Friday. We can always say that.
You're running out of time on that one, though, I think.
Yeah.
All right. I'll take my Christmas tree down. Fine.
All right, guys.
I mean, if you just leave it up like 10 or 11 more months, it'll be time for it again.
Yeah, there you go.
So there you go.
Be September in 8 months, you know. Get that Christmas tree up in September. All right, here we go. So we got 3 stories today we're going to cover that tell one simple truth, that cybersecurity basics still matter. And as we talk about all the time on this show, when they're ignored, the bad guys exploit the gaps and push your life into chaos. Randy's going to hit us up first with a massive data breach hitting a major university. Andre's going to break down why so many medical devices fail basic cybersecurity tests just as the FDA tightens up some rules around those medical devices. And I'm going to wrap us up with a stunning breach chain that hit 50 global organizations because someone didn't flip a switch on multi-factor authentication. So let's get right into it. So Randy, you're bringing us this story here about University of Phoenix and their data breach. It's a reminder that higher education is still a prime target. They just confirmed a breach impacting 3.5 million people. What's going on?
Well, so University of Phoenix uses, so this has all been coming out over the last couple of weeks, few weeks. More and more details have been coming through. Originally, the suspicion was unpatched Oracle e-business systems because University of Phoenix used to be a part of a group that was like famously known for being an Oracle shop or whatever. So a week ago, that was kind of like, I don't know, maybe
like
really
like their private equity company that own them. Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
That's what I've read, but it has. Okay. And you know how there's a lot of AI generated news out there, Bryan. So I have a little bit of concern that they're putting the dots together and then saying it's Oracle e-business systems, but it does appear it's Oracle e-business systems. There was a vulnerability that was out there. There's a group called CLOP that we have mentioned multiple times on this show who literally has had an Oracle e-business systems campaign, if you will. Yep. So it appears
I'm not talking about the same thing in my article. It's just a different group with a different target.
A slightly different thing. Yeah. And so looks like there was an unknown vulnerability that the bad guys knew about, wasn't patched. The bad guys were able to get into the system for about a week back in August, week to 10 days-ish, back in August. Sometime around October, November, they caught wind of it. And then that kicked out some, they had to tell the authorities and all that kind of jazz, where towards the mid to end of December, they started talking about it. But the deal is this Oracle e-business systems that they use, it does things like HR. So what does HR do? HR has employee records, social security numbers, potentially banking information. We know that a lot of this kind of stuff has been released, and we're talking about 3.5 million people. So basically everybody, I don't know if it's everybody that's ever touched University of Phoenix. I don't know how many people they have like in a class, if you will, but it's been a pretty gigantic breach, if you will. It looks like full names, contact info, date of birth, social security numbers, and probably bank account and routing numbers. That could be pretty bad because most accounts don't have a protection just to stop a random ACH from happening. So that's basically what's been going on. Now we have got to the place where they had to file with some attorney general's offices. We've got to the place where they've notified individuals that were affected by mail. Apparently they are giving out 12 months of free identity protection services. So that's for 3.5 million users. I don't know what kind of deal they got on that. That's a lot of money, y'all. But that's going to include credit monitoring, dark web monitoring, $1 million in fraud reimbursement coverage via insurance, identity theft recovery, and all that jazz. Looks like there's already a lawsuit now underway. At least a firm that's investigating it, Lynch Carpenter, looking at potential claims against the university related to the breach. Pretty big deal. And, we've talked about it multiple times on our show, guys, just how we rely on these third-party systems. Every business does, basically. There's one or another. Hardly there's a business out there that's not touched by a third-party system unless you're like doing the trades and you're working off a pen and paper. You know what I mean? Like you're putting your data in third-party systems, and we talk about this on the regular. That's a vulnerability that opens up because of it, and it puts risk with your organization. Not saying that you can do anything about it, other than be prepared for it. And also it shows how important it is when you do know about a vulnerability, you got to patch it. You got to look for them and you got to patch it, which I'll close with this. I've always called patching the unsexiest of all the cybersecurity controls. And this one probably wouldn't have helped because I think it was unknown for a while and the bad guys were exploiting it before it was fixed. So that's the basic gist of it, y'all.
Got it.
Yeah, for me, I still, here we are now in 2026, and there's still not a way where you can protect this date of birth, social security numbers, bank accounts. I still say that there's got to be a way that if this information is sitting in a program and now it's leaving this platform, it has to leave encrypted or something, so that way these bad guys can't get it, because it's resting somewhere. So if it's resting somewhere, why can't that when it leaves, it automatically now just, can't be read? Like, I think that's something that that the industry really has to figure out.
Definitely. And then, the interesting thing that's happening here and the theme that you're going to get between Randy's story and the story that I'm going to cover is the way that the hackers have position themselves to do this stuff now, when they're now just focusing on one vulnerability, right? And they're just going after that vulnerability. So essentially they're just going out there and, it starts with scanning just publicly facing devices, right? But then it moves into, okay, we can't find any, or, we're going to continue to look, but we're running out of the low hanging fruit that's publicly accessible to us. So now when other, what we call initial access brokers, people that get in through, say, spam emails, phishing links, things like that, right? People breach systems, they get in, and then they kind of see what they have, right? And then what these cyber criminals do is when they get into a network and determine what they have, then they run over the dark web and they see which ransomware group, like CLOP, is exploiting whatever vulnerabilities. They look at all the vulnerabilities that they have available to them. They go over the dark web. Oh, CLOP exploits this Oracle vulnerability that we found. Okay, great. We're going to go contact them and hire them to do the ransomware. Right? So that's how this stuff works. That's how this stuff actually goes down in real time to businesses. Like, people get into your network, they run scans, they figure out where your vulnerabilities are at, and then they run to the dark web and they find the right ransomware group to take care of that vulnerability. Because what the ransomware groups are doing is they're getting really good at taking that one vulnerability and hitting as many devices as they can because they know how to exploit that vulnerability so good, right? So they can spread and then they can deploy the ransomware very quickly because they have such high level expertise when this vulnerability exists on your network. So they're experts at it, and they can do a lot of damage real quick. And they've determined and decided over the years that this is the business model that works the best for these cyber criminals. Right? Let's just focus on a vulnerability, hire other people to go out there and find these vulnerabilities for us. And then when they come to us with these vulnerabilities, we get paid.
Yep.
Yeah. So, any other thoughts on this one? Not to mention all these people that are going to get exploited.
Yeah.
University emails coming in, text messages. Anybody that graduated still has I think about it, anybody that's graduated that still has a loan or something like that because of they went to this school. You're going to be getting emails and messages, about your loan and stuff like that, and it's going to seem urgent. So you got to be vigilant and be mindful of these things.
And I'm sure on the lawsuit side, isn't it going to be different being this is more of a private company versus suing like a school? It's a little harder to, get things out of them. So.
I mean, yes and no, but I think it makes it a little bit easier since this is a private university versus a public.
Yeah.
So, all right, Andre, we got these medical devices that are falling short of FDA cyber standards. And this is related to a new report that most connected medical devices in U.S. hospitals would fail the FDA's updated cybersecurity requirements if it was submitted today. So what's going on here?
Yeah, so interesting statistic I'll start off with. Where so obviously when you go inside a hospital, obviously there's computers, but then there's all of these medical devices that then have some type of network connection, Ethernet connection, and it connects to the internet or at least on the internal network of the hospital. So the statistic is that 53% of these medical IoT devices have known critical vulnerabilities, and that 33% have risks that could impact device operation or patient safety. So we've seen in the news before where when these hospitals go down, it's, obviously it's mission critical items, but when these medical devices were created, let's just say 10, 15 years ago, cybersecurity wasn't on the forefront. Now with these new FDA rules, they have to now show that they can now support the entire life cycle. So what I found interesting is that the medical devices stay in service between 10 and 15 plus years. So once they're in the hospital, they're there for 10 to 15 years. However, the support as far as getting it, patching and things like that is only 5 to 7 years. So that's kind of like us, the hospitals still using Windows 7. The hospitals aren't changing. So we see the disconnect in these old devices. And many times it's because these medical devices are extremely expensive. You have to retrain staff. And, obviously, if it's not broken, why fix it, right? So if your doctors or medical staff says, hey, administrators, we need to replace this device that's working perfectly fine, it's just no longer getting support from the manufacturer, well, most likely the board is going to say, well, it's working perfectly fine. We'll budget for it another time until it breaks. So it's a real concern, because if there is some type of cyber attack and you have a patient and it's now giving, maybe it can be reprogrammed to give wrong information or shut down, it's just it's a really life or death situation. So hopefully hospitals can budget and they can take this more seriously, because at some point you have to take this cyber risk and just know that one day it's going to affect the patient, and we don't want someone dying because your system got hacked.
Well, and it's kind of crazy too, because medical devices are expensive. They're involved in critical care often. So we're not just talking, like a thermometer that could get hacked. We're also talking heart monitors, talking things that, maybe are literally involved in critical care. So they're expensive. They're involved right now in things. So it's not like you could just turn them off, right? And just say, oh, these are dangerous. Don't use them anymore. I think kind of the big picture here is Bryan, I feel like I'm just like hoping and wishing, like thoughts and prayers, what's fixing to come out of my mouth, because what would be great, and I think what the FDA is trying to see, is that we start to see these devices differently. We start to see them with having a life cycle. We start to see them, they should be cybersecurity first, and moving on a journey towards being cyber secure. I say that though, how many times have we mentioned this industry over the last 4 or 5 years? And it's just time after time after time after time again, they're using old, outdated technology and they're not doing anything about it. I think that's kind of the gist of what the FDA is trying to see here is let's change and become cybersecure. It won't happen overnight, but let's be moving in that direction.
Well, yeah. I just hope that these devices, I mean, look, as scary as this is going to sound, I mean, it's a real risk out there, but like, what if these devices cannot be updated? I mean, you got some of these devices implanted in human beings.
Yep.
Right. So I'm not kidding around. Like literally, I own a Mercedes-Benz. It's not even 4 years old. And they just disabled the app that allows me to do like the remote start and the locking and everything. Like the whole entire car, like the technology function of it, the Wi-Fi inside the car. For whatever reason, Mercedes said, we're not doing this anymore. We're not supporting it. We're shutting it down, and boom, I lost it. Right. So I can't remote start my car. We don't have Wi-Fi in the car anymore. And like, you call them and ask them like, what's going on here? And they're like, oh, well, we're not supporting it anymore. If you want, you can buy a new car, or you can go get a third party to, get you those same, features back into your car. Seriously? I paid $120,000 for that car.
Dang, son.
You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck? So like, I mean, I don't need that. You know what I mean? Like you need to support that thing forever and ever. And this is the problem. This is what I'm getting to, right? Somebody needs to force all these companies. If you're going to put out a piece of hardware and you're going to offer it to people, you need to support it. Same thing with the damn TVs. They stopped supporting the software on those like in a year and a half.
If that,
right?
Dude.
Right. And everybody gets a new TV. And the next thing you know, it's vulnerable. And, they got 8 TVs in their house and they got 8 vulnerable TVs because the manufacturer's like, we're not supporting this anymore.
Man, but that's going to stifle the technology growth, because they're going to be like, oh, we got to keep everything on this platform, even though we were innovative and we created something new that's going to be even better.
That's why a lot of people out there are pushing for secure by design. Right.
What's that?
Because it's a standard that all this stuff's going to have to be built on, and you have to meet it, or you're not going to be able to sell your product in certain places.
Yep.
Right. And that's it. I mean,
but for how long?
For how long? What?
No, secure by design, because you can sell it day one where it's secure, but how long does it need to stay secure by design?
It's secure by design is a process. It's
okay.
It's more like a manufacturing process, right? So it's like when you're going to build IT hardware, you're going to put it through this process, right? And if you put it through the process, the idea is that it will always remain secure. Like that's the idea. Like if you create it today, in 20 years, you're going to have a way to make sure that it stays secure.
Ouch. That sounds expensive.
It's not expensive. It's just, we know how to do it now. It's just forcing these companies to do it the right way.
Got it.
Companies want to get there fast, so they cut corners. It's all about cutting corners. Everybody cuts corners. They put out insecure products. And this is like the government and world organizations kind of saying like, hey, you capitalistic companies, you for-profit companies, you need to start doing it this way, or we're not going to let your products play in the system. Right. So they're going to kill it off where if you don't follow secure by design, you're not going to be able to sell it to the government.
Got it. Okay.
Right? Hopefully that matriculates down to people going, oh, well, like that's a standard. So we're not going to put that in our business if that standard isn't met. Right. So that would be the idea.
Got it. Okay.
Or say, maybe Walmart decides like, or Staples or Best Buy decides like, we're not going to sell any computers or any hardware devices that are not secure by design. That's how it plays out.
But then all this, because remember, it's 56% right now. So these hospitals are just waiting for these things to die. So that means that in a sense has to be grandfathered in and the problem still stays.
Yeah. I mean,
for now, for the time being.
What I'm laying out is just an idea and a concept.
Mhm.
You probably have maybe a decade before it would actually come to fruition to where people could actually adopt and go in that.
And,
you know what I mean?
Well, and that's what I was saying in my comments on this. And I had to stop myself and say, I feel kind of like a big joke even saying this out loud, but this is what's got to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not seeing it. We don't see movement in this. Maybe there is movement in this, but we're not seeing it. But you're right. It's not going to happen overnight. And, cybersecurity is a journey anyway. It's not a destination.
And keeping the devices all there. I mean, to me, a lot of these governments, they would rather have these devices vulnerable than not vulnerable for their own purposes, if you know what I'm saying.
Yep.
So,
yep.
That's why what you just said is a thing.
Another thing. Wow. Yeah, I didn't even think about that angle, man.
Right. So, all right. So let's move on here. We got my article here, which is pretty interesting that I thought, and it was really strikingly related to what Randy talked about. And this one organization or this one criminal organization hit 50 organizations, which I thought was like, wow, okay. And said without using anything sophisticated, right? So no nation state tools, no 0 days, no advanced malware frameworks. It was literally basic credential theft, and they figured out how to do it at scale, right? And this is what they did. They essentially used InfoStealer malware. So that's malware that quietly harvests usernames and passwords from infected machines. And what did they infect? Well, they infected browser, like when your users log into a website and it says, do you want to save this so you don't have to log in next time? And they click, yeah, and that's in every browser. I think that's an option that stores it. Most browsers, it's unencrypted. It's very easy to crack. And they were just, throwing up ads or sending emails, fake pop-ups, fake things on malicious websites known as malicious ads, right? And they're just clicking on, or they were just messages saying like, you need to update your browser. You need to do this. And when they click on that, these InfoStealer things were just stealing the credentials right out of the browser, right? And once they had these credentials, the cyber criminals were targeting VPNs and mainly cloud services. And they were going after the interesting thing is this article doesn't name the cloud services. I can kind of guess which ones they were based on what I'm reading. It wasn't TwoDrive, it was the other one. But basically across these 50 organizations, none of them had multi-factor authentication.
Crazy.
So if they just had that turned on, even though their company had malware on it that was stealing their passwords from a web browser, so what if they have that information, right? If they have the username and password and they're blocked by MFA, now they have to, come up with another scam to try to steal your MFA code, right? In that case, they're probably going to move on, right? Because there's 49 other organizations that they can hit because they don't have MFA, right? So that's what was going on here, and that's how easy it was. And then once inside, these guys, like I said, they went for anything that was cloud storage, like OneDrive or Google Drive or any of those third-party tools like Dropbox, ShareFile, or if you still had internal file systems, and they were going in there and stealing the information and then letting you know they stole it and they weren't going to do anything with it if you paid them. But if you didn't pay them, they were going to start releasing it or contacting the people whose data that they had. So moral of the story here,
MFA.
Make sure you have MFA turned on, because these are the layers we talk about. Even though it failed at the layer of detecting that the thing that the user was clicking on was malicious, right? And your antivirus or your endpoint software didn't detect that you had info stealer malware on your system, right? So there's another breakdown in your protocol. You just made it really easy for them to walk in the front door by leaving the MFA turned off once they had the information. So then they were able to do further damage based on all these little things not being there.
I'm reading in this. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say it's kind of like they left the key under the mat, right? But Randy, you mentioned the word journey, and I remember back in the days where your password would have to change. Like, it was annoying, like every 14 days, every 30 days, right? Then we tell everybody, well, that doesn't really make sense because people just put a 1 afterwards or, some type of combination. Then we say, don't change your password, use a password manager. And now companies now have disabled that rotating password. But in this case, password's not rotated, MFA is not turned on, and now they just got it.
Yeah, sounds like it's super easy. I'm reading down in the article some of the victims, and just real quick, a defense contractor in Turkey.
Bro, it was Change Healthcare. These guys were Change. These guys were Change Healthcare.
Right.
And the British Library and that Snowflake hack.
Yeah. And I'm looking at some other ones down in here. Of the 50 organizations, we've got a Turkish defense contractor that has critical military intellectual property. There's one that I wanted to read. We've got a health organization that does health records of the Brazilian military and family members. And then we have a law firm that represents Mercedes-Benz, the USA, and their lemon law cases. 48 states, along with thousands of customers, VINs, license plates, home addresses, and phone numbers. That's going to get interesting as well. Hopefully they won't see the show and know that you're disgruntled and use that to reach out,
How about the Florida-based engineering firm whose clients include major utilities?
Wow.
That should make your
Yep, it does.
the hair stand up on the back of your neck a little bit. 139 gigabytes of engineering data was stolen from their company. Duke Energy, about Tampa Electric, Duke Energy, and American Electric Power. The group that stole it, Zestix, was selling the trove for 6.5 Bitcoin, which is about $585,000.
And man, we just saw, without getting into politics and all that, we just saw what can happen with energy going out, right?
Mm-hmm.
A couple of weeks ago in another country.
Yeah, I mean, $585 for a country like Russia, China, or North Korea.
Yeah,
come on,
it's pocket change.
Come on,
and good strategy, good. What do you call it when you have a blackmail? Like, hey, we got this.
Yeah, no doubt. That's crazy. So, all right, guys. All right. I don't know what happened with my layouts here, but they're a mess on this thing.
So we started 2026. I thought we were going to have some, everybody's, listening to what we're saying, following best practices.
Right.
Okay. cybersecurity has become the second child to AI at this point. So
I know, right?
we're going to have a lot to talk about this
AI,
year.
AI has fizzled. We're back, baby.
Yeah. AI is fizzling a little bit, though. I will give you that. I will give you that.
There's AI. What is that? Where you're tired of hearing about it? AI wariness, I guess. There's so much of that.
Yeah.
There's all these ads that are like, "Hey, here's the best prompts ever," and this and that, and it's we're all very wary of it. Still a lot of useful stuff out there, but we're over here. Hey, man, cybersecurity is still a thing, and it's not going anywhere anytime soon. You got to have it.
I didn't trade in my hat, guys. I'm still here.
You definitely need it more now than you ever have, and AI is just going to make it a million times worse, right? So, all right, guys. So we covered a massive university breach where patch vulnerability sat open too long, cost millions of people their data. We'll stay tuned for future updates on what happens with that data, because I'm sure we'll report it on that. Medical devices that aren't built for security or the future, and now they run afoul of FDA requirements, and it does actually matter for patient safety more than anything. And a cloud breach spree caused by a failing to require multi-factor authentication, and I would say a pretty slick get in the door method. And then they just, they knew who they wanted, right? They wanted to find these companies that weren't using MFA and take advantage of it, right? So key takeaways for me, guys: patch early, patch often, build security into products and procurement, as I mentioned, with secure by design, not just compliance checkboxes. And, we've been preaching this for probably 4 or 5 years now. You can go back and watch our original show where we recommended password managers and MFA, right? And I think we did that show like 5 years ago, right? And MFA isn't optional, and it's one of your kind of like get out of jail free cards if you have it in place, because if they get your passwords, MFA will save your bacon.
Yeah.
So,
and no SMS MFA.
Takeaways for you guys before I ask people?
Nope.
No. I'm gonna
no, I was gonna say just and make sure it's the real McCoy, not that SMS MFA.
Yeah, or email. Don't have it sent to your email either.
Right.
If you have the choice, like some websites I deal with, you don't even have a choice. It's like, hey, we just sent you an email with a code. It's like, oh, thanks. So, all right. So just remember to support the show, and here's how you can do it. Hit subscribe, share it with your friends, team, family, whoever needs to hear this. If you're listening to us on a podcast platform, please leave us a review. Let people know why this is a worthwhile podcast. And if you really want to support the show, Andre, Randy, and I have made a quick way for you to do that by buying us a coffee over at buymeacoffee.com/Security Squawk. See you next time. I'm Bryan here with Randy and Andre. Stay safe out there. And we will see you, next Tuesday? We're good for next Tuesday, right? So we'll see you next Tuesday.
Maybe.
Yep. Take care.
All right.